High school teachers of Reddit, what's the most awkward position a student has ever put you in? I teach English in Germany. And sometimes taking literal translations can cause a problem. Once while we were talking about going to the beach, I had a student ask me why she couldn't say I creamed my pants. Now in German, to say that you apply sun lotion, you say ich creme mich, or literally translated, I cream myself. As a result, a native English speaker friend of hers decided to joke and say that she should never say I creamed my pants in English and not say why. So she asked me, her English teacher, in front of the class, who also began demanding to know. Needless to say, I went bright red and called to have an early break. I had a male model-like pay teacher who had to start dressing bad and not shaving to make girls stop having a pay note for injury so they wouldn't just hang around him. Did it backfire and make him hotter? A little, but he just looked like a slob for the most part, plus he chewed gum a lot and he had good breath. I had a student, freshman 15 years old, send me a picture of herself in lingerie with a line, "What can I do to get an A?" Had to protect myself. Turned it into administration. It was a very awkward meeting with her parents. Edit, she sent the picture to me via email. Her parents were mortified and were not bad parents. She was a very confused girl who I believe got the help she needed. Just got you didn't get arrested for possession of CP. Rules can be weird. My English teacher was put in a very uncomfortable situation a few years ago when one day during class one of the girls asked if she could use the bathroom and naturally he said in a little bit. 5 minutes later she raises her hand again and my teacher replied, "I'll write you a pass right now." Then the girl said never mind. It went back in. The look on my teacher's face was amazing. My English teacher has been put into some uncomfortable situations at my school. He's in his 30s. Has a caustic sense of humor. And the ravages of time haven't reached him quite yet. So needless to say the girls at my school have gone a bit nuts. The most outstanding example I can think of is when a freshman girl, who he doesn't even teach, found his wedding photos online, photoshopped her face onto his wife's, and circulated them. Student threatened to strangle me with his iPod cord and then didn't. What a tease. Edit, holy shit. Thanks for the gold. One of my very good looking male friends is a science maths teacher. He's one of those mad people that loves to make maths fun, and honestly his classes are like a damn performance. It's beautiful, but a lot of the girls in the class just giggle and ask him if he has a girlfriend. He kept deflecting them and concentrated on making the class fun, but then they got nasty to a quiet girl he paid too much attention to. She was actually interested in math and he gave her some extra material after class that he thought she'd like. He fully put his foot down and demanded a parent meeting with all of the girls in question parents and told them straight up they could either act like mature people or get out, and that he didn't deserve to be borderline sexually harassed while working. Most of the parents were just mortified their daughters would behave like that, but a few were like it's a compliment. etc. Luckily admin were on his side. Not a teacher, but my buddy asked our fairly attractive physics professor to prom. It was really hard to watch. I am a gay teacher. One day when I was teaching middle school and one of my female students told me she had to go to the bathroom. She came back and told me in front of the class that her period came. It was her first period. She had no idea what to do. She was not wearing anything. And she was in great pain. You could see the blood coming in. I calmly told her to go to the nurse. I am a 28-year-old gay male and I still have no ducking clue how a period works. And to my student, Brittany, it is okay to cringe at the fact that you told your gay teacher and 20 other students that you started your adventure to womanhood. Because of you, I carry pads in my desk. When I was teaching high school, a little twit named Austin found out it was my 45th birthday and launched into a spiel in front of the class how I should be sure to get a colonoscopy as I was now at that age. College student here. A classmate in my police investigations course is the instructor's granddaughter. One day we were talking about sexual assaults and the instructor asked what type of evidence could be left behind on a condom. The granddaughter quickly raised her hand and said, "DNA from saliva." The instructor, her grandfather, asked her to elaborate. I was horrified as I watched her gesture as though she had a condom in her hand and ripped the package open with her mouth. Hence the possibility of saliva evidence. In middle school during sex ed, the teacher was preaching abstinence until marriage. The teacher was single, so a student asked him if he was a virgin. Awkward for the teacher because he didn't know which was worse, admit he was a hypocrite or admit he was a 40-year-old virgin. He turned bright red and let us go to recess early. Had a failing student stay after class to ask me, "If I suck your big dick, will you give me a B?" Very glad there was a trusted adult close by. The real tragedy is that she didn't even ask for an A. What kind of self-esteem would you need in order to offer a BJ for just a B? Well, she did only offer a B job. When I did student teaching at a high school, one male student in the string ensemble I was leading asked, in front of others, if he could learn cello because he wanted to play something he could hold between his legs. Ran into one of my students at the store. The only things in my cart were duct tape, tampons, and motor oil. He looked at my items, and his eyes got large. Not sure what he was imagining I was going to do, but we both acted like it never happened the next day in school. I had a student tell me, quietly in the back of the room, how she was struggling to concentrate and would likely need to leave in class for an extended period of time because she had a UT. I spoke with her after class making sure she was alright. I had to find a very delicate way of explaining the importance of peeing after 6 and gently reminding her to always use protection, without directly saying those words. I am a male and it was in a conservative town, so I could have gotten into serious trouble for not encouraging abstinence only. I just wanted to make sure she was informed and safe. I teach middle school. I hope that counts. Last week, a 13-year-old boy asked me what happens when a girl gets turned on. All I could say was, "Go ask an experienced friend." I'm going to pretend this didn't just happen. I'm a young female teacher. Yikes. Teach middle school, so most of the time it's awkward. Fairly soon after I'd broken up with a long-term boyfriend, a student asked me why we'd broken up. I swear, it wasn't weird that the kid knew. They'd seen me with him around town, so that was fun. Then the kid threatened to take him out for me. A 6th grader asked me how reproduction can define an organism as living vs non-living if boys cannot make babies. Shouldn't this mean that boys are non-living? I sent that kid right on down to the health teacher. A boy in a dance class at my school was going to have to wear skin-tight leggings in an upcoming performance. Now, serious male dancers usually wear what is called a support, like a heavy-duty supportive G-string, under leggings to tuck everything away neatly. However, the school I teach at isn't a specialist dance school and we don't have many male students, so this wasn't an issue I have had to deal with before. It was decided that the school would purchase the support for him since we had to make a trip to a dance shop anyway and we knew what to look for. Cue an awkward phone call with the student's mother to explain why his teachers were buying him a G-string. I'm a new teacher, in my early 20s, with a student who is almost too old to be in high school, 21. I was really short with him one day because he was being an asshole. And he responded, "I know why you're so crabby today. You're mad because your boyfriend beat you." He then yelled at me the whole way down the stairs as I escorted him to the principal, demanding that I tell him why he was in trouble. Made me super uncomfortable, because he was almost my age and clearly didn't respect me as a teacher. His comments were way over the line and he got removed from my class for it. Edited because I shouldn't be trusted to type anything before bed. Current teacher at college is a young man in his 20s. Those considered popular girls in my class will constantly call his name for help, but sometimes they just call his name for his attention and give him nicknames, which he always become awkward in response and just goes, "Don't call me that," and ends up standing awkwardly with one of the straight faces that says, "I want to stand over there now." Edit, I'm in a rather small college. There's quite a few people well known in the college, ranging from the probably gonna be a rapist to the ones who bunk, drink, and cause trouble. It's a lot different than a large college which I was in, one moving to this one. Can confirm there's no popular or unpopular in big colleges, but in this small college there is. Not sure about others. I'm in the UK. One time in high school when my class was in the computer lab, two classmates asked if they could go back to the classroom because they forgot their books. The teacher, a fairly attractive young blonde, thought nothing of it and gave them her keys to the class. The two boys went back to the classroom to find her phone sitting on her desk. They opened it, went through her messages, found nudes she sent to her husband, forwarded the pictures to themselves, proceeded to forward the nudes to the entire male student body. Unfortunately, a couple weeks later she was convicted with a DUI and was let go from the school due to personal issues. Sad story because she was a nice lady and really didn't do anything wrong. Edit, you all are upset about the DUI and for good reason. It was the incident that led to her DUIs where she did nothing wrong. However, she should have controlled herself, I agree. Not really one situation in particular, but one year my fairly attractive English teacher's last name was Cox. My class was relatively mature about it, surprisingly. My high school had 3 teachers in a single hall named Mr. Seymour, Mr. Dixon, and Mr. Butts. Seymour, Dixon, Butts. Seymour, Big Dixon, Butts. Everyone was incredibly immature about that one. I teach English in Japan. On this day, the principal was observing the class. The students were in elementary school and we were going over adjectives. I asked the students to draw something on the board that related to the adjective. For example, draw for me something that was big. When I got to draw for something that was cheap, some students showed me an eraser or candy. But one student drew a stick figure with an afro. I'm American. So naturally, in my mind, I freaked out. Since the principal was in the room, I had to act professionally. I asked the student why he drew what he has drawn. Apparently he learned about slavery in the US and learned how much slave owners paid. Edit, principal for principal. Not a teacher. But one of my teachers is young and very attractive. I feel really bad for him. He has the entire student body squealing over his face and dabs 24/7 and all he can do is pretend not to notice. Obligatory, not a teacher, but a substitute for my environmental science class had put himself in a pretty awkward situation. He was going through the roll, and he got to a kid named Jackson. He said, "It's a shame your name isn't Jackson," said like Jackson, because then you could have a twin called Jacksoff. He sadly sunk his head as he realized the joke he had made as the class erupted into laughter. Apparently he was trying to make a reference to some TV show or something. He was actually pretty cool though. He was able to laugh at himself and was a pretty funny guy in general. Often the teachers who can get the class to laugh are the ones who get the most respect. I teach high school in Japan. At this particular school, the kids are low academic, so are gonna turn out to be restaurant cooks, farmers, and the like. And as their future doesn't look bright, the girls are obsessed with finding a husband by the time they graduate. Sometimes, those husbands turn out to be younger teachers. So I, 24 at the time, got hit on a lot. The most awkward moment was when a group of girls came to clean the teacher's room. Japanese students clean their own schools every day, and several of them came with their skirts rolled higher and kept bending over to clean, giving me full-on and deliberate panty shots. With the language barrier between me and my co-workers, I was really worried about this. Legit stressing over it all afternoon before I decided to tell my supervisor. She just laughed and said girls will be girls. That was pretty tame compared to what female foreign teachers are put through at low academic schools. My mom is a high school teacher and told me this story. She had to call a parent because their kid was being a little shit in the class, and the parent was giving the typical "you must be wrong. My little boy would never do such a thing" excuses. So she laid out what would happen detention wise and then hung up. But accidentally set it to speakerphone instead. Another teacher comments on the futility of that call to the parents and she responds with yeah. Well, the little sheet's probably going to be cleaning toilets for the rest of his life anyways. While the father was still on the line. Suffice to say, an apology had to be made. Not a teacher. But this happened in high school physics. Our professor was a cool dude. Cared about the student. The whole 9 yards. He was also head football coach. We were reviewing a test we'd taken. Going through it and seeing if we needed any clarification on our answers and the way they were graded. One student asked him, and forgive me I forget the details, variables, numbers, if using one equation to solve the problem was the solution, couldn't he get the same answer by using a combination of other equations? Teacher is dumbfounded. Just ignore that one of his tests may have answers he didn't consider. Sure enough. The student explained his method and the teacher wrote the entire thing out on the board, which proved a viable solution. Teacher gave the student his point. Back for that question. My English teacher once said something I disagreed with. She was also our wrestling team manager, so we were closer than just a normal student would be. I was attempting to yell you're making me livid. But I could not remember the word. Instead I shouted Mrs. you are making me flaccid. A friend of mine had just gotten a new tattoo and needed to put cream on it to help it heal. Our notoriously easy to embarrass CMC teacher was the victim. Whom she yelled across a crowded room, can I go cream myself in the bathroom? I teach English in Russia at a private school and once had a very self-assured rich brat ask me if I'd ever smoked marijuana. I told him that wasn't an appropriate question. He then said, but your job must be very hard. Being paid to just sit there and talk in your native language? I'm rather pleased that I quite quickly answered, the only hard part of my job is pretending I like you.